My mom cheated on my dad and left him for his best friend. She made him look like he was the one at fault and I developed resentment towards him. I recently found out what happened and I feel guilty for being an asshole to my dad and I want to make it up to him. Plus update, part 1. During the divorce, my mom told me that my dad was abusive, controlling, and emotionally absent, which is why she was leaving him. She also told me that my dad treated her badly, called her names, and didn't love her. I was only 10 years old at the time. My mom got primary custody, and my dad was stuck paying child support. I only got to see my dad 2 weekends per month. After that, I held some resentment towards my dad. I dreaded when it was time to see him. He had sold what used to be our house, moved back to his hometown, opened a mechanic shop, and lived in it. He was an alcoholic who always tried to sober up when I came to stay with him. He was miserable, lonely, and depressed. He always tried to clean up his house when I went to stay with him, even though it still smelled like alcohol, gunpowder, gasoline, and car oils. Sometimes I found dirty laundry stuffed in the laundry room. When I turned 15, I started to see him less. I refused to go stay with him and made up excuses. I only visited him a few times a year. One day, I went to visit him without informing him, and I found him drinking while watching a football game. He was surprised to see me, quickly started getting rid of his beer cans, cleaning his kitchen, and asking me if I was hungry so that he could order pizza. I lashed out at him and told him that's why mom left him because he was so miserable and couldn't keep his shit together. I felt guilty afterward. He loved old classic muscle cars, and when I turned 18, he got me a 1970 Chevrolet Chevelle SS, which he had fixed himself. Later, my mom and I sold it and got a Honda Civic. Anyway, last week I came to visit my mom. I was planning to stay for the weekend. On Saturday night, I overheard my mom and stepdad talking about what happened 12 years ago, bragging about their affair and not once even regretting how it affected my dad. All they said was that they felt sorry for him. I couldn't help but cry. I wanted to confront her, but I couldn't bring myself to do it. I wanted to call her names, insult her, but I didn't have the strength. I was full of mixed emotions, but I felt guilty the most. All this time, I held resentment towards my dad, thinking he was the bad guy, but he was only the victim of my mom's affair. He never recovered from the affair due to his depression, anxiety issues, and PTSD. All the time I thought he faked caring about me, but he genuinely cared for me. He always tried to stay strong and smile for me. I left the following day and found my dad at his mechanic shop. I hugged him while crying, and he was puzzled. I kept saying sorry repeatedly until he managed to calm me down. Then, I told him everything and apologized even more. When I asked why he didn't fight for custody, he told me that his depression, anxiety, and PTSD would make him an unfit parent. He never wanted to ruin my relationship with my mom because he knew I loved her, and his ex-best friend would take care of me better than he could. He said that it was not my fault and forgave me. He was happy that I found out. I want to make it up to my dad, but I don't know how. Please help. Update. First, thanks to all those who took the time to comment and offer support. As some of you have said, there are two sides to every story, and I decided to listen to my dad's side. He admitted to being distant and not affectionate after his last deployment due to his PTSD, but the affair had been going on when he was deployed. I confronted my mom a few days after my post, and she was defensive at first. She said that I was not grateful for what she did for me and that she simply protected me from my father. She called him a few names. I didn't want to argue, and I had already chosen my next words carefully. I told her that my father was a good man who was broken by the betrayal of the two people he trusted the most, and worst of all, you turned his own daughter against him. I appreciate and am grateful for everything, but it's time I choose the parent who put his own daughter's needs first, even if it means making hard sacrifices, and not the one who wanted the daughter to satisfy her own needs. Goodbye, Mom. I will keep in touch. Before I left, tears had been building in her eyes, and she just remained silent. She has tried to reach out to me, but I just ignore her or ask her to stop disturbing me. I don't want to block her, but my message is loud and clear. My aunt has recently reached out to me and told me that my mom is depressed. Well, her husband can take care of her. As for my dad, most of you suggested that I sell the Civic and buy the Chevy Chevelle SS back. I couldn't find the person I sold it to, but I decided to look for old, worn-out muscle cars to fix. I have been searching for a while. It was hard, but I had the help of a few friends and even some Redditors who reached out to me on chat. Almost 2 weeks ago, I was lucky and found an old wrecked 1970 Dodge Charger. And yeah, I sold the Civic to afford the Charger. My dad was kind of upset, but when I told him the reason, he brightened up. He's been more than happy to show me how to fix it. I bought an apartment an hour away from his mechanic shop. One Redditor suggested that I do a makeover at his place. Well, I've been making time, and we have started to renovate and do a makeover. And my friends from college who are studying interior design have decided to help. It took him a little convincing as he felt embarrassed, but he finally joined the train. Now, every day after college, I go to visit him, And on weekends I spend time with him and talk about anything, mostly what he's interested in my life. He likes soccer and is a big fan of Arsenal. So I always keep him company during match days, pick the opponent's team to add fun, and am learning a little about football. Since I sold my car, he has allowed me to use his 1977 Pontiac Firebird. He has been with it since I was 11, and as long as I can remember, he has never let anyone drive it. Since I have been around more often, he has stopped his drinking habits, maybe a few, and I join him on game nights, but who can blame us? So there is your update. If you made it this far, I guess it is a happy ending. Thanks to all of you again.